Welcome back to another episode of Fill the Screens podcast. Today we will be talking about Until Dawn. This franchise is based on a pretty popular game series. I've never played the game myself, so I have no opinion on that. But what kind of drew me in is the trailer, the concept of these characters. Whenever they die, the night would repeat itself. It's kind of a Groundhog's Day setup. And each time they die, the night restarts over, and then something new will come for them. So I really like the concept, so I went and watched it. This is going to have spoilers, so if you haven't seen it, this is your warning. And as I go forward, it's going to have some spoilers, so here we go. So starting with the concept, again I will say the concept is really cool. Whenever the characters die, it resets, and then a brand new monster will come for them. At least that's what the trailer made it look like. So I was really excited because I was like, ooh, we're going to get a variety of monsters here. You know, there's going to be just different types of things coming after them. Reminded me of Cabin in the Woods in a way, not with the dying and repeating, but rather than a bunch of monsters coming for them. That interested me. So I will say the concept is really cool. I almost wish there was a way in the trailer they could have showed stuff without spoiling the concept, because I do think that is a golden thing in the movie, but I mean, you're already expecting it, so I feel like it's going to kind of lose points sometimes. But again, very awesome concept in itself. Now, before things get underway, I will say the 5 characters of this movie, there's not a whole lot of character growth for any of them. There's one of them, the main character, who's missing her sister. There's a couple that are kind of constantly fighting. One of them's a bigger guy. Another one kind of looks like I don't want to call her emo girl, but she seems a little more alternate. I'll say that. Then we have our main character. We have a guy who likes the main character. And then we have a girl who, I guess, can communicate with spirits and kind of has a psychic ability. She was kind of a random fifth one thrown in. So once things get underway with these 5 characters, the very first monster/entity they see, it kind of looks like Jason Voorhees. It's a maniac serial killer. He moves very slow, just like Jason Voorhees or Michael Myers. And I love the first kills that went on. It was pretty cool. He's just walking around the room. The rest of them, they're hiding. He picks one up and slams him against the wall. That was pretty awesome. One of the characters gets her head beat into the floor. Then there's other stabbings. It set the tone. And I feel like at this part of the movie, if you want to call it scary, it kind of had that scare factor. The second monster/entity was more of a paranormal force. The girl who's supposed to be a psychic, she becomes possessed. And when she becomes possessed, she speaks in a whole different tone. Different characters that have been at the house before. She's recycling their stories. I thought that was kind of cool, but the paranormal stuff, I feel like it could have been done a lot better. That was mixed in with a witch, that's in a little cabin, across the street, and then there's a little clown, type plot going on with it. But at this point I was like, I feel like it's not as strong as the big macho serial killer. Don't get me wrong, it was still kind of fun, but I feel like once we moved from the first kills to the second round, it went from this could potentially be scary to when it gets to the second round, it's okay, there's a lot going on here. The witch isn't that scary. She's making this girl breathe in her oxygen from her mask. It's probably not oxygen. It's probably something else, because it does make her go possessed. But I think it would have been a lot scarier if they just would have simplified this part. And instead of having all these different interactions with the clown dolls and all that stuff, instead the paranormal entity just possesses one of them. And then that possessed person would attack the rest of the group, and maybe they would scratch someone, then they would become possessed, and it almost turns into a quarantine type situation. I think that would have been really cool, and you could have kept the scariness of the movie up. To whereas when you go to this witch's cabin, it's kind of this isn't as scary. So when then our characters reset, we go for a third round. And the third round is actually pretty funny. The water within this place when they drink it, and again, spoilers because you don't want this part spoiled for you if you haven't seen it. But whenever the characters drink it, the water makes them explode. Literally, they just blow into pieces, like they splatter. And the nice thing about this movie, it doesn't hold back on the gore, which is a very, very good thing. You don't want this movie to be PG-13. So they do go all out with the blood and stuff. When they blow up, like blood shoots everywhere, parts go everywhere. The girl who's a psychic, I kind of joked with my friend who went to see it with me. I said, this place must be pretty racist here, because she's the only Asian person in the group, or at least like kind of Asian looking. And she takes the brutal parts of all these rounds. Like whenever the Jason guy shows up, he bashes her head into the floor, whereas the others just kind of get stabbed. The paranormal force that possessed her first, like twisted her arms around. She got a pretty rough deal there. And then when it comes to the water, like all the other friends just blow up in one gigantic explosion. But when it's her turn, like her leg blows up first. Then her stomach like swells up, and then that explodes. And then finally she explodes all the way. She had a very slow death. And I was like, man, what did this girl do to deserve this? She got a pretty rough deal. And if I were the others, because there's 2 others alive at this time, if I would have watched her slowly blow up, I probably just would have ran to the sink and chugged the water. So I would blow up in one big boom rather than her 5 mini booms. It seems like that's the better way to go. Once the water drinking scene happened, a character enters the scene, and we see him earlier in the movie. He's a gas station attendant, and it turns out he's behind this whole evil place, and he lectures the main characters as they're about to reset. The main character, he said something like, time goes by quicker when you're moving instead of just sitting put, which that was the main character's sister quoted the same exact thing in a flashback, whatever. But this evil character who's in charge of this whole place, maybe if I played the video games, maybe I would get some references there, because I did see a lot of comments on Reddit and in different places, and they're talking about like, oh, like it makes sense that he's behind it. I think there was actually some comments that were mad that he was completely behind it. Maybe there's some video game logic to where he shouldn't be a purely evil person. I don't know. If there's any feedback on that from those who play the games, let me know in the comments, because I was wondering about that. Because I didn't hate him as a bad guy. But just some of his monologuing, telling the main character, you're the one who's driving this place. And it seems like sometimes he would just talk in empty quotes. Just a monologue, almost like a James Bond villain. So some of his monologuing and stuff, I'm kind of like, he's kind of just saying a whole bunch of nothing. Basically the plot comes down to is, he found the very first whenever you die at this place, you stay on the land and you become part of it. And when you become part of it long enough, you start to transform into different type of creatures. He created a bunch of Wendigo type creatures. And that's why this place is just running with all kinds of different wacky stuff. So it was a very, very simple plot. But with the premise the movie was selling on, I didn't expect a huge plot going on. So, I figured it would be simple anyways. One thing I did like about this movie is on the phone they recorded, because I thought they were going to get 13 lives, but I think they shot way past that. A girl's like, no, this is not, because one of them's like, this is our 5th night. And they're like, no, this is like our 15th night. Or some bigger number like that. But anyways, they get out the phone and it shows recordings of different nights to which they tried to survive. And I thought that was pretty cool. The scares were pretty quick coming. Some of the scenes were in found footage form, which I liked a lot. I love found footage, so anytime a movie can do that, you get brownie points for me. But during this sequence, I thought they just showed a lot of cool things. They showed a lot of different monsters to where, they can't show everything. They don't want to make a 3-hour movie. So this was a clever way to kind of input it. There was a part with sirens, making them explode. I really like the sequence where they showed all these different things. I'll just kind of get into the end too. So the end gets into the Wendigos. Those are running rampant. They have underground tunnels, which create a very scary environment. In the beginning of the movie, it kind of teases it, where it shows the sister crawling out of a hole, trying to escape them, and she doesn't make it. But just her crawling out of the ground like that, it's very claustrophobic. And when these main characters go into it, into these tunnels, I think it creates this claustrophobic atmosphere that I think served very good at the end of the movie. Even the opening shot with the sister, I was kind of like, okay, I bet we're going to end the movie there, because that's just a creepy little place that they could, it could really thrive in. So I think they made a good decision with that. So I did like the environment of the tunnels. One thing I did kind of question, because there was a scene to which they get in the car, they try to drive out, and they just notice this big, gigantic, Slender Man-looking monster lurking in the trees, and they're like, oh no, and they turn around and they drive back. And I was like, no, there is no way. Like, I would spend each of my life inside the car just trying to drive past that gigantic monster. Like, what else do you want to die from? Do you really want to die from Jason? That doesn't look fun. Do you want to die by the Wendigos? I don't think so. I really don't want to be possessed and breathe in that nasty witch's gas. So I think the best way they should have went is just continuously just trying to get in the car and trying to drive around the big tall thing. Granted, I know they never would have made it out. Which me and my friend kind of debated. I was like, so when they went into the rain in the very beginning of the movie, does that mean they entered the world then? Because that's what I thought it was. But we were kind of unsure, because when they arrived in the place in the beginning, the sand starts to fall, and when the sand runs out, it seems like that's when the whole thing gets started. So whenever they do show up at the place, out inside the storm walls, could they have left the area? That's what we were debating. And we really didn't get a good answer out of it. So if anyone has any feedback on that, feel free to share your thoughts as well. I did see a criticism about the ending when they all finally make it, like crawling out of the hole, just like the main character's sister, that no one actually died. And I was kind of like, man, you watched all of them die like 6 times each. That's 30 deaths in a film. I know it's not a final death, but still, you get some cool deaths in this film, even though a main character doesn't die permanently. One thing I did question is the psychic character. There's a point with the phone. Everyone dies in the room, and it kind of pans around except the psychic character. She notices the big bad guy. He's walking around, monologuing, whatever. He walks into the tunnels, and she says to the camera, she goes, I gotta go see what they're doing. So she ventures off into the tunnels. So when this happens, all the other characters reset. They're like, we gotta go save our friend. They go into the tunnels. They save her because she's like chained to a chair by a Wendigo. And then they're all like running for their lives, trying to just outlast all these monsters. And what I said, shouldn't the psychic character be on a different timer than everyone else? Because if she survived and she was going longer than everyone else, her timer should have ran out quicker than the other 4 characters. Or if you want to play hypothetical, if they did kill her in the tunnels, then I think she would have been reset later than the other characters. Unless the only way the other characters get reset is when she finally gets killed in the tunnels, and then they all reset together. But if that's the case, wouldn't that character reset with all the characters in the same exact room? So I found that was kind of a loophole in the movie. But overall, I felt like they did just a really good job with that concept. And then when they finally did make it out, one of the characters gets in the car and he goes, what, you guys going to stay another night? And then they all kind of laugh and get in the car. I kind of hated that they end that part with a joke. If you lasted a whole night to where you got killed like 13 different times, and then you finally make it out alive by the skin of your teeth, and you just got chased through the tunnels by these zombie-looking creatures, for me, it's just like, I wish they just would have, like, got out of the tunnel looking all tired and scared. And then, like, I would have sprinted to the car. I wouldn't have walked. I wouldn't have took my time. They all kind of like lay there like, oh, we made it. No, I would have been gone. Like I would have been sprinting as quick as I can, diving into the car, screaming, drive, drive, drive. But, it's a movie, so I guess I'm nitpicking on that. Here's some overall thoughts on the movie. One thing I really do appreciate, the concept kind of brings a charcuterie board of different scares. There's one moment you'll be like kind of in a slasher type film. There's another moment you'll be in a paranormal type film. Then another moment it's almost like a zombie film. And then you get to a part to where whenever you see the creature in the woods, it's almost like a Godzilla type creature or Cloverfield. You get different vibes in this movie, and it's very smart. It's a cool way to go. But I will say, just the paranormal part, I feel like that could have been better. And something I feel like you need to be really careful when you do this type of movie is just make sure when you're going for a different aspect of film, to really nail those vibes down. Because, when they went into the paranormal aspect of it, I got really excited. I was like, oh man, they're going to start getting possessed. And it could have been really scary during that part. And I feel like they just didn't nail that home. And I wish they would have. I feel like if they would have nailed the possession part, this movie would have been getting a lot better reviews. And also if they would have kept the concept kind of hidden until people went to see this movie, I think the reviews would have been a little better as well. Now, they're also fighting the crowd to which if you play the game, and if they didn't stick to the story of the game, that crowd's going to be upset. So I think they're kind of fighting that crowd as well, because video game adaptations never really do well, because for whatever reason, Hollywood likes to just ignore the video game story, and they're like, oh, we think we got a better idea that we can just shove into a 2-hour time slip, but we'll still use the video game's name, and that's what makes fans mad. Just look at Resident Evil. Resident Evil is a perfect example of that. With the way these concepts go, the Groundhog's Day type horror movie, I had in my head, I was like, these movies are very hard to make scary whenever characters can just come back again. Look at Happy Death Day. I love Happy Death Day. I think it's awesome. I think it's funny. But if you're looking for something to terrify you, that's probably not the movie to go with. So this movie I was a little nervous about because I was like, oh, it's a monster movie. I hope it's not 100% funny. But I do think the movie kind of works when it's more aware, kind of like the water drinking scene. That really did work. So it's just kind of the balancing act of, whether you like this movie or not, you're probably going to judge it on how well you think they did of balancing all those aspects. Like if you really like the water drinking scene, if you thought the slasher part was really cool, maybe if you like the witch, I don't know. But if like two of those aspects end up failing for you, you're probably going to end up saying the movie doesn't work. I think a lot of the concepts of the movie could have packed a little more punch. I think there was a lot of room to grow with it, but I don't think it was bad at all. I think it was fun. It was a fun movie to watch in theater. I had a good time. It was bloody, lots of kills. And the characters that are in the movie, the actors and actresses, they did a very good job acting it out. And I don't think they'll get that credit because I think the script had a lot of kind of cringy lines they had to read. But whenever they had to show emotion or, do whatever, I thought all of them nailed it. There wasn't a character I hated. Were they kind of NPCs? Yeah, a little bit. But whenever they had to show whatever emotion they did, I thought they did an awesome job, and I thought they did the best job they could. I do think a movie franchise can branch off of this movie. Hopefully it makes a lot of money. If you haven't seen it in theaters, make sure you do, because these types of concepts, I'd like to see more than one attempt at them. And I think they could do better than what they did here. Even though I thought it was fun, I think there's a lot of things they could improve on. What if they actually tried to make the entire movie scary without the gags? Could that work? I think it could. So yeah, that's just kind of my overall thoughts of this movie. I enjoyed it. It's fun. It's not very scary. But I don't think they set out to make it that scary. There's a crap ton of jump scares. And that I think they need to tone down. I think they need to try to go with more atmosphere scares, which sometimes they did a really good job of. There were some jump scares that were done really well, but then there was just some times where there were so many, it's like every time a character was turning, you're like, oh, there's going to be a jump scare here. And then there was. I mean, there's sometimes a very cheap jump scare to where, like, they turn and they play this, like, just really loud noise, and then the monster's like, meow, and, like, takes, like, one swing, and then the characters are running again. I think, some of the best jump scares are when, like, a zombie's actually like tackling a character, so just something along those lines. There's you can tell the difference between a good jump scare and a bad jump scare. They had some good ones. Some of them they just need to cut out completely and just kind of go with atmosphere. But overall, again, like I said, it's a pretty fun movie. I enjoyed my time watching it. I think they should make more, and I hope they do. So yeah, that's my thoughts on Until Dawn. Now, if you completely disagree with me and you thought it was awful, let me know in the comments. Maybe you played the video game and maybe they should have stuck with the video game story, which most times that is the situation. Let me know. Tell me what you think. If you agree with me and you had a lot of fun with it, tell me that as well. Like this video because it gets it out to other people. And if you're still listening, thank you so much. I do appreciate it. And until next time.